Hello everyone, this is Eflex and welcome to a producer's approach. For this episode of a producer's approach, I wanted to break down the song I Want You featuring Tianda by OBLYVN. So if you guys don't know how these videos work, basically I will give my producer's insight and opinions on this song that I'm going to be kind of analyzing and giving my perspective on. So OBLYVN as an artist is a artist that I recently found through Monstercat. I listened to some of their songs on the Monstercat label, like Alive and Planet Erythium, and I have to say OBLYVN's style is very similar to Haywire. I really get that same type of feel, and the structure and the flow of this music of OBLYVN's is very similar. So basically, in today's video, I just wanted to break down the song I Want You, and the song is a pretty good song. I will honestly say, like, I've been going through like a pretty hard time in my life, and I do remember playing this song one night, and I just kind of zoned out and kind of hit the feels listening to the song. So I don't always get that listening to a song, but definitely this song, after listening to it recently, I do get kind of those kind of emotional feels listening to the song. So the song will definitely be a song I will remember over time. If I'm just feeling kind of down or in a bad place, I will listen to the song, and so that's why I wanted to break down this song in particular. I will do more OBLYVN songs like Planet Erythium and songs like that, but I did want to just do this song first to just, introduce kind of the song that's been getting me through a harder time in my life. So here's the start of the breakdown. So just hearing right off the bat, you can tell like the piano and the pads in the back and the kind of vocal ambient sound in the background. They kind of set the tone. The chord progression to me sounds more like a sadder progression. I don't know exactly how to describe it. It just kind of, it's like one of those chord progressions when you play it's not like an uplifting progression, it's like kind of a sadder feeling progression when you play it. So I definitely feel that, and then you could just, the tone is pretty much set basically with that like piano playing those chords and the ambience right off the bat within the first 15 seconds. And then before the vocal comes in, you can kind of hear like a reversed reverb tail. So basically that's a trick I saw in a Vice Dome breakdown video of one of their songs, where they take the first, I think, syllable of the vocal and then they put a bunch of reverb on it, kind of export that section out, like that one little syllable, I guess you would say, like the first syllable, and that has like a really big reverb tail, and then they just reverse it. So then it kind of creates this effect going and transitioning into the vocal. So it kind of makes it a more natural flow into the vocal, kind of like the same thing a lot of artists do with lead sounds, where they play or introduce the lead a little bit before the drop, where you hear the lead. So kind of the same concept, kind of just an easier and better, smoother transition.
I can see it in your eyes. Look around the room like you wanna be done here. Nervous system butterflies. I can tell you feel like you just don't belong here. Tired voice and shaking hands. I hope you know.
It was cool because you can hear that the vocal and the piano, they both take up the space. There's no other sound really. Like the vocal has a lot of processing to make it sound really full. So it sounds like Tianda is singing in like a hall or a big room, and then the piano has enough full space to take the low end section or the low mids to where, you know, it kind of fills the whole space. It doesn't really need any additional sounds right there. Like I don't notice a pad sound or anything in the background. It's just the piano and the vocal just playing at the same time. And then now you are introduced to like the percussion, which is kind of a halftime kind of rhythm where it's like a kick on one and a snare on the third beat. So definitely pretty cool.
Know that you don't have to pretend with me at all. Who are you when they're not watching? 'Cause I'm all in, I want you. When you're up, when you're down, when you're broken, I want you.
So it's pretty cool. It just sounds like the vocal is playing, but also sounds like there's maybe a layer underneath where it's maybe tuned down a little bit with like a vocoder on it, because almost sounds a little bit robotic in a sense, but it's not overwhelming. You kind of have to listen to it a little bit. It's almost like a texture underneath the main vocal. And you kind of notice that there's another sound starting to build up. I think that might be the main pad sound, but could be incorrect. Let me listen a little bit more to just confirm that.
All the light in the dark, in the open, I want you.
It's the combination of the plucks and the lead sound. So I think they both were they had a low pass filter on them, and then like they just slowly automated up, and then you kind of hear them kind of both explode, and then you could tell that the lead sound is moved to the front and the vocals are kind of pushed a little bit to the back, so they aren't the main focus as they're kind of getting vocal chopped. Like the lead becomes like the main focus and the plucks as well. So it's kind of a nice transition between where the vocal and the piano were the main focal sounds, and then transition to the more synthetic sounds becoming more of the focus. So that was a cool kind of build up. You had the lead play building up with the kicks, and then it just the sample or the vocal plays I want, kind of like in tone with what the song is called, I Want You. So it just says I want, and then it just drops, and then it's kind of like a future bass drop, but it's kind of a nice drop because the rhythm is really cool. It seems like there are gaps, kind of like there's like gaps in the drop where there's like kind of like a breath almost like. So yeah, it's pretty cool because like the kick is not on every beat, so it kind of gives it a different kind of flow where there's kind of not always a kick on every beat, where there's kind of like a more, I almost want to say like a halftime swingish type feel, because I kind of feel kind of that swing feel, because I would swing my body listening to the song a little bit, or yeah, so and it's kind of a nice combination between the lead sound and the, I think, pluck sound. Let me listen to that again. Yeah, so there are a lot of sounds happening in the sound. So there's the percussion sounds, there's vocal chops, there's kind of the main kind of saw wave on the bottom, and then there's like kind of little leads within the drop. So it's kind of like a Complexure song where like there are different sounds kind of all meshed together to kind of make sense and pitch the same, so they kind of like different alternating sounds, but they all make sense into like one flowing, cohesive kind of melody, I almost want to say. But yeah, it's just there's like a different vocal chop, there's different percussion hits like when the kick isn't there, so kind of different sounds filling in the gap per each section. So there's actually quite a bit going on just in that one little drop section. And then here I think the lead comes back in along with the vocals, I believe, or at least vocal chop. Yeah, so in that section there was a lot going on. So there was the kind of lead sound that was playing alongside with the vocals, but the vocals were at the forefront, where the lead you could hear it, but it's not as prominent, and almost to my ears it almost sounded like it was cutting in and out. But the reason for that might be that the vocals kind of were in the front, and then they kind of are in the same frequency range, but because you hear the vocals more, that like your ears pay attention to the vocals more, and you don't really hear the kind of lead. And then the same kind of flow is happening from the first part of that drop, where different percussion sounds were kind of filling in the gaps for when the kick drum wasn't playing. So as you notice, yeah, there's like different sounds kind of playing at the same time, kind of just filling in those gaps. And there isn't like a really huge like obvious transition into the break section. It just kind of ends with the kick and what I would like to call kind of like a sub drop or a sub bass drop from what it seems like into the break section.
I don't ever wanna go back. Have you ever been around so many people and somehow still felt alone there? Maybe it's all in my head, but everything you never.
So in that section is pretty cool. So you had the piano playing, you had the vocal playing, but also there were vocal chops right after the vocalist would finish her kind of vocal section. So after she would finish that section, you would either hear like a sample of her to almost like give a echoing effect, and it would be in the same pitch as the vocal, or it'd be in a higher pitch, kind of like a vocal chop right after that vocal section, which is a pretty interesting touch because it's almost like a call and response, and it's almost like an echoing effect as well, just in a different key, but still within the same bass key. So it's interesting. I've never really heard too many times like a vocal play and then right after that like a pitched vocal chop. There are very few artists I think I've heard do that. I think Insane Like might have done that in his style of his songs, but not too many that I observe or listen to do vocal chopping quite like that. Normally they would take the same vocal part and then play it again, but add a little more effects to it, because that's what I would do. I'd probably take that like syllable or section and kind of copy and paste it a little bit afterwards, and then throw a lot of reverb and delay on it just to give it kind of that echoing effect. I did that for Relaxima, and I did that not vocal wise, but for synth on Traverse in the outro. So that's kind of the effect that I would do. So it seems a little bit different, but it seems pretty effective. So I definitely will keep that in my mind in case I want to try that in the future.
I hope you know that you don't have to pretend with me at all. I wish you never stop talking, 'cause I'm falling. I want you.
That's cool. So transition from like I think the piano sound into the pluck sound. I think I heard a pad in the background, an ambient pad. So a really nice balance and transition between the piano and the pluck, and the vocal didn't change much, so it seemed like the piano and the plucks were kind of in the same frequency range to kind of trade off sounds. So pretty cool touch.
When you're up, when you're down, when you're broken, I want you. All the light in the dark, in the open, I want you. I want you. I want you.
So basically this is like a different style and way to build up. Like I noticed it's a little bit different than the first drop, so that's definitely interesting. The first drop was a little more involved, but this one's more of like a dramatic kind of more build up than the first drop. And then there's even like a different kind of way how it transitions into this drop. It seems like it gives more emphasis this time, more in the build up than it did the first time. So yeah, the second drop was interesting. I think, let me go back. Seemed like the vocal was more present in the second drop. The vocals were vocal chopping a lot more, but they just seemed more present. But it seemed pretty similar to the first drop and kind of all the sounds that were playing, but the transition from the build up into the second drop was the main emphasis there. But otherwise the vocal was more present and the vocal chop, and other than that, the drops were pretty similar. So overall the song was really good. Give it like a 9 out of 10 rating. And so that's pretty much I Want You featuring Tianda from OBLYVN. So if you guys enjoyed this video, feel free to comment, leave a like, and subscribe if you like it. So otherwise, have a good one, guys. Peace.